So I say transformation in education. But what do I mean? Well, you've probably noticed, or maybe you haven't, but just like all of the legacy institutions, the education system is coming apart. More and more, we're getting new approaches and new initiatives popping up. Right? Homeschooling's been around for a while, but it seems to have been energized in the last 10 years or so. And at the same time, more versions of alternative schooling, or what I like to call learning environments. I don't love the term school, just the imagery it conjures up. So, in any event, unschooling, world schooling, yurt schools, forest schools, jungle schools, scalar schools, metaphysical schools, all manner of small scale micro schools popping up. Why? Because on some level, humans are realizing that the old legacy system is not serving the well-being of the individual, the community, and humanity at large. But there are challenges. There's inertia. The legacy institutions have structure, they have a certain amount of stability, they have resources, they have funding, they have legalities that protect their monopoly, let's say, their dominance, let's say. But we know fundamentally, deep inside, that a new paradigm is emerging, will emerge, is in the process of emerging, and in many respects has already developed to a certain extent. But of course, there are challenges. Now, I always like to talk about challenges in terms of the opportunities that come with them. There are always opportunities from challenges. And if you can approach a challenge as though it's a little bit of a treasure hunt for the opportunities, then what you'll find is that these challenges yield fruits and gifts indefinitely. If you want to call it a problem instead of a challenge, then you're going to be mired in a problem and perpetuate the energy of problem. When Einstein said you can't solve a problem from within the problem or from the energy of the problem, this is, from my perspective, what he meant. You must transcend that energy. You must transcend that perspective to have a more expansionary, open perspective on this challenge and allow for infinite possibilities to unfold. Allow for energies and forces you don't necessarily see to come into play. So, when it comes to language, when it comes to energy, it's something that I'm keenly aware of and sensitive to. And so, I fully appreciate the fact that the energy of these words and these titles and these the couching of these terms is something from the past paradigm. But I want to talk a little bit about the book, The Art of War. Now, it says when the enemy, which I like to say the adversary. I mean, and there's no real adversary, right? It's just another party that is part of a challenge where there needs to be a harmonization. Things need to be brought into balance. We talk about fighting off an infection, fighting off a bacteria or a virus, and that, even that, is old paradigm language, and it's not accurate, it's not correct, and it's problematic because it creates conflict, right? You're constantly in a battle with your environment, fighting germs, killing germs, fighting off bacteria, right? It's not like that. What's happening is an integration. Your white blood cells, they're not out trying to kill the bacteria. They're out harmonizing, integrating the bacteria into your physicality. There's an integration. There's a process of integrating all of the energies and the potential nourishment from anything that comes into your field to take what is of value for your nourishment and to eliminate the residual, the waste. But it's an integration process. It doesn't need to be seen as a battle. The more you look at things in terms of a battle and from a perspective of conflict, the more you're going to be in a state of tension, heightened awareness for the next threat. Cortisol levels go up, and life expectancy and well-being goes down. Simply put. In the art of war, it's a similar thing. Not exactly, but elements are similar. When the adversary is strong, attack weakness. So, not that we have to attack, and not really that there's an adversary, but if we wanted to look at the government as a consideration that we have to deal with in this transformation and in this integration, because at the end of the day, what we want is to be able to allow for an emerging paradigm in education that serves to the greatest extent possible the well-being of the individual child, the family, the community, and the planet. It's an integration. We don't necessarily want in perpetuity for our micro-schooling or alternative schooling initiatives to exist in conflict or at odds with the establishment. In time, the establishment is going to be being dismantled. And what we are creating is a system that can replace it, that can supplant it in time at a certain point of development. So, why do I bring this up? Okay, there's been bits and pieces now. I've jumped around a little, so let's put it all together. The government is extremely inefficient. That's a weakness. In the art of war, small armies using these kinds of strategies, and there's several strategies, several tactics and strategies. I'm just picking out this one. But small armies of 10,000 people, 10,000 soldiers, whatever, or could have success against an army of 50 or 60,000 by being resourceful and synergistic. What does that mean? Synergistic means taking full advantage of every asset and every potential opportunity to put themselves at an advantage. It meant working together with no waste. No waste of energy, of material, of weapons, of manpower. Armies of 10,000 could capture an army of 50,000. It wasn't attrition. It wasn't slugging it out. It didn't matter who had the biggest weapons. It wasn't about the bloodbath and who was left standing at the end. It was about creating a situation where the small power was intelligent and synergistic to take advantage of things that it was a David and Goliath type of scenario. The smaller army could encircle and capture the bigger army with very little loss on the side of the small army. It was an extremely efficient, it was a synergistic consideration. And that is what it's going to take to transform this educational system on the part of the stakeholders, the parents, the teachers, those who are working in this new movement, who maybe don't even have titles. Like, my wife works in this and she takes on different roles and different jobs as required. Whatever it takes, wherever her skills and abilities can be best utilized, that's where she's going. Right? There's no ego. Right? There's no need to have this feeling of permanence or authority or power, but there's an empowerment. There's a trust. Let's do what needs to be done. Let's navigate towards unity. Fundamentally, in the art of war, the small army had to be unified. Any dissent, any argument, any drama within the ranks spelled defeat and disaster. When we look at what education can and will transform into, it's not about the reading and the writing. That's easy. That's not complicated. It's about the sense of community, the integrity, peaceful interaction, constructive, supportive environments where children are able to explore their creativity, to be curious, to be adventurous, to be able to experiment, to feel safety, to have fun, and to experience progress. When a child has progress, they light up. When they're able to do something that they couldn't do a month or two ago, they get excited. Now, primarily, my focus with my children has been Waldorf education. Waldorf schools, Waldorf-inspired education. And it's not necessary. It's not because of any dogma. It's not because of any militance to one particular philosophy. What it is the fact that at the core of child's development is that the child is encouraged to develop their innate abilities and tendencies, and then curriculum can get wrapped around those curiosities and those desires to experiment in different ways. You can build curriculum, whether it's reading, writing, those basics, languages. They can be done in the context of children being in experimentation, which is what children enjoy when they're active, when it's experiential. And what it comes down to is there's an inside out approach to learning and teaching. It's what is in the child that needs to be expressed. Let that be the guiding focus, as opposed to the old paradigm, which was, here's the information that you need to learn. Write it down, copy it, take it in. The way it's told to you, don't question it. Just memorize it, and put it back onto a piece of paper when it's time for a test. Okay? No one learns anything that way, really. That's an incredibly inefficient way of learning, but that's how the system is structured. It's okay, it's what it is. And fundamentally, when you look at it, as an example, I took French for 7 years, and I learned basics, grammar, vocabulary. My kids learned Spanish fluently in a matter of 2 months from being in a Spanish school. And why was that? Because children acquire information from the environment. They absorb vibration, information. They absorb it, they acquire it. When you take language at school, first year, you learn the present tense. Second year, you learn the past tense. Third year, you learn the future tense. So if you want to tell somebody that tomorrow I'm meeting someone at a restaurant, you can't even say that. You don't have the basic grammar to even say that until you're in year 3. How does that work? First 2 years of studying French, you don't learn how to say, tomorrow I'm going to go to the store. It's future tense. You don't learn that until year 3. It's incredibly inefficient. And my daughters are fluent in Spanish from 2 months. Past tense, future tense, present tense. They don't know, they don't care. It just comes out of their mouth. It's a fundamental misunderstanding and confusion of the way that children learn and develop that is, in Waldorf, it's understood deeply. And so there's deep learning in Waldorf because it doesn't do it that way. It's a much more efficient, much more effective, much more enjoyable experience. And whether it's Waldorf or anything else, these principles are what are going to, on some level, inform the new paradigm in education. Fostering creativity. The old paradigm fosters an environment and a mentality of looking outside for direction. Employees, really. Living by definition. What do you want to be when you grow up? A fireman, a doctor, a policeman, a construction worker? Ask my daughter what that question, and what she'll say is, why are you asking me that? My interests change from one year to the next. I don't know. And even as I get older, I'm sure my interests will still continue to move around, and I'll want to experiment with different things. And besides, the types of careers people are having now, in a lot of cases, didn't exist 20 years ago. So what sense does it make to ask a child like me what I'm going to be doing in 20 years? Why is that relevant? Why are you asking me that? It's a silly question. And it is. But that's what we do, isn't it? Because there's no deep understanding of how children perceive, how they learn, how they absorb information, how they develop, how they see things. A child, until they're about 6 years old, their brain waves are in theta. They're in a theta state. Theta is what your brain waves express as when you're in a dream, when you're daydreaming, when you're between falling asleep and still being awake. It's a slower frequency. It's between 4 and 7 hertz. So for a child at 4 or 5 years old, it's like they're in a dream. Think about that. Trying to get a child, so they're in like this imaginative state. Ever notice in a dream, nothing's impossible. You're interacting with people that aren't even alive anymore, and there's other people there that didn't even know each other in this reality. Like, nothing makes any sense in this because it's not linear, it's quantum. And a child's brain at 4 years old is in that state. Everything is possible. They don't know the difference between imagination and what we call the real. So getting a child to start focusing on numbers and letters and math and reading at 4 or 5 years old, it's really counterproductive. Creativity is what we then call in business innovation. Right? Innovation. How are you going to get innovation if you're dampening the creativity and the curiosity and the imagination of children at a really young age? You have to foster that creativity. We need to guard it. We need to be vigilant about allowing it to grow and flourish, not starting to squeeze them into these little boxes and linearizing everything, getting them to sit and copy numbers and letters off the board at a young age. Paint, sing, draw, not coloring, drawing. Express yourself creatively. Use your hands, handwork, make things, knitting, sewing, crocheting, carving, candle making. Use your hands. Kids these days at 10, 12 years old have a hard time holding a pencil in a lot of cases. They can't even they don't have the motor skills because all they're doing is typing on a screen or using a remote control in a video game, but that's not creating manual dexterity. That's not developing their motor skills. And then when they do have to pick up a pen and write, it's foreign to them. I've seen this. I know of it. I'm aware of this. It's a real thing. disconnected from their body. And so, getting back to values and getting back to synergy. Children, from my perspective, need that sense of stability and security. And because children acquire information, acquire understanding, they are able to find meaning in what they're exposed to. If they're hearing a lot of conversation where people are blaming and where there's anger and guilt and conflict and drama and gossip, like, never mind the academics. Now we're in the energy of the public school. We're in the energy of the system. We're in the energy of the establishment. Maintain a level of conflict and fear and separation. And if we as parents, and we as participants and stakeholders in this emerging movement of education as it's transforming, are embodying and expressing these energies of conflict and blame and guilt and competition, that's the antithesis of synergy. Remember what happens to the small army that doesn't have synergy, that has conflict and drama. They don't succeed. So, navigating towards unity. That is the underlying concept here. Collaboration is what leads to synergy. If there's any competition, if there's any victim energy, if there's any blame and guilt, it's disempowering the whole movement. There's absolutely no point in creating division and separation. You're just replicating what already exists. There's no point, there's no advantage, there's no benefit. It's just creating more of the same in a different environment. Fundamental to the development of our children is to be in an environment where there's collaboration, there's respect, there's integrity, there's compassion. There's no such thing as separation. Separation is an illusion. Trying to cut somebody off, trying to ostracize somebody, trying to create an us versus them scenario is a failure from the get-go. And it's a disservice to our kids. If you're noticing or you're contemplating blame, it's because you're manifesting it. Remember, everything in your reality that you're experiencing is a perfect, precise reflection of the energy you're running in your space, your vibration. Nothing in your reality would be there if it weren't for the fact that something in your vibration is causing it to manifest. So, pointing fingers and looking at others is never the way forward. That's the way down. Synergy. 1 + 1 = 3. That's how there's going to be success in this movement. Synergistic, synchronistic living in present time, assuming love. Assuming love, always assuming love. What does that mean? That means that it doesn't matter what somebody says or what you think they are doing or what you perceive that they have done or what you think they might think. It's irrelevant. Assume they are acting from a place of love, or they want to. Everybody wants to. Everyone who's in conflict on some level, they want to get along. They do. They want to get along. But there's the energy of the disrupted, the distorted ego energy that gets in the way and doesn't want to lose or perceive that it is losing its position of advantage or authority. Egos need to be healed, not destroyed. They're important. The ego mind, when it becomes distorted, is a problem, but the ego is necessary. Its job is to help us focus in this reality, but that's it. It's not the decision maker. It doesn't have the bird's eye view. It doesn't know, and it's not designed to know how something will happen and how something will unfold. It's not engineered to do that, but that's what we use it for, because we don't know anything else. But the ego, the lower mind, is only designed to perceive what is happening and what has happened. That's it. It's the higher mind. The higher mind is supremely capable of coordinating synchronicity and synergy, and it functions based on energetic templates. So what does that mean? That means that by expressing the energies that you enjoy, prefer, desire for yourself, for your family, for your environment, the higher mind understands and can work with that. That's what it's there for. That's what it does. And that's what is going to enable the synchronicities to unfold in perfect timing, not too soon and not too late. All the resources, all the individuals, all of the scenarios, all of the outcomes, all of the interactions, all of the exchanges synchronistically coming together to enable the emergence of a new, constructive, supportive, synergistic, educational, developmental environment for our children, who are the next generation of empowered humans. And so until we can focus on really absorbing these concepts, navigating towards unity, assuming love, allowing the energy of blame and guilt and victim in particular, and judgment, to disintegrate from our space individually, personally, each of us, and integrating these new concepts of collaboration, of synergy, of integrity, respectfulness, of resourcefulness, of allowing, of peacefulness, right? Isn't that what you want for your kids? How are we going to manifest that for our kids if we're busy blaming and guilting and judging all the time? It's not going to happen. And that's a devolution. That creates disintegration on a physical level, which leads to illness, disease. Okay? Those are contractionary energies. Those are distortions of love. You start fostering an environment that's supportive, creative, peaceful, empowering. You're not only going to have empowered, confident, intelligent, compassionate children, they're going to be healthy too, because these are expansionary energies. These are healing energies. It's really hard for dis-ease to exist in a body that's expressing enjoyment and kindness, peacefulness. We take care of their health and their wealth by fostering these environments. I'm not saying it's easy. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge because it's not what we grew up with. We grew up in competition. We grew up in outside in learning environments. We grew up in one size fits all. We grew up in linearity. But that's an old paradigm. We have to take it upon ourselves individually as parents and as stakeholders in this movement to do the work on ourselves. It's always an inside job. And what we are able to shift and how we're able to recalibrate ourselves vibrationally, internally, individually, that is what will determine the success, the rate of success, the kind of success that we're able to manifest as a collective, as a community. And there's going to be 2 or 3 steps forward and maybe a step backwards here and there. But we keep our eyes on the prize. We don't get bogged down in the dramas and in the conflicts and in the finger pointings. Everyone is going to contribute to the extent that they're able to, where they can, as a primary consideration, be of service to themselves. Be of service to yourself first, before your child. Be of service to yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Be of service to yourself. Build your personal wellness, your wealth of health, your wealth of peaceful living, and then share that wealth with your children, with your families, with your community. We were taught to put others before ourselves. That's fundamentally wrong-headed. Fundamentally doesn't work. You keep putting other people before you know it, you're in bad shape, and now you need other people to take care of you. And now you're a burden. It backfires. It doesn't work that way. Look after yourself. Get good sleep. Give yourself time to get present. Breathe, meditate, hydrate, exercise. Get out in nature. From there, you have a lot then to offer. Then you share the wealth. And if everyone can do that, assuming love, navigating towards unity, don't focus on the differences. Focus on where we have commonality, where our values are aligned, where our interests and our priorities, our values overlap. Focus on that. We can't be individually trying to make this on our own and fighting off each other with one hand at the same time while we're trying to foster a community of creativity and support and well-being for our kids, that's never going to work. It's going to just flop. It already flopped. It's going to, you can see outside of time and space, there's no future for that kind of an approach. It's okay. Again, this is how we were raised. Competition, us versus them, me, and then the outside world, right? Take it upon ourselves to do the work internally. Let go of the baggage. It's not your baggage, you just took it on. It was foisted onto you from the time you were young, right? You acquired and absorbed these energies of conflict and drama and disempowerment because that's the energy we grew up in. Cold wars, right? This conflict, this party against that party, this group against this, the antis against the pros, like, right? Navigate towards unity, and all of that stuff starts to go away. I know it's not easy, but it's doable. And once you get the hang of it and you start doing it, you start to develop the muscle memory. So you have different responses. You're not in reaction. You're not running those same old reactionary patterns that you've been running for so long, that you've learned years and years ago and just run on autopilot. We start to dismantle and disintegrate those patterns, get out of reaction. We step back and we allow and observe and imagine, not thinking in a linear way, right? The thinking is the tool of the lower mind. The imagination is the means, is the path of the higher mind. Imagine. I always like to go back to breathing. The respiration, the inspiration, and the imagination. And then the manifestation and the celebration are inevitable. But we need to become steady in vibration. We need to take care of our own personal energy fields, our situations, our realities. You can't change your personal reality without changing your personality. And your personality is made up of what? Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, your perceptions, your habits. For the most part, none of that really serves you. It really doesn't. It keeps you stuck, keeps you trapped, keeps you spinning in the drama. And like that, we're easy pickings for the establishment, because that's how the establishment functions, right? That's its forte, right? Conflict and drama. We're not going to transcend that paradigm by bringing a basis of conflict and drama and victimization into another environment. We're just going to recreate the same thing. There's no progress in that. We have to transcend that. So individually, let's get focused. Each of us individually look at ourselves. What are we talking about? Is it positive or is it negative? We don't talk about negative things. We don't talk negatively in my house. And here's what I mean. We don't say, my kids don't say, I hope it doesn't rain. Okay, that's negative. What they say is, it would be nice if we had blue skies and sun for our day at the park tomorrow. Positive. Don't push against what you don't like. Put all your energy into what you do like. When I was in Mexico, I used to say, if I don't like it, I don't want to talk about it. Because people wanted to talk about the government and COVID and all the restrictions and all of the nonsense. And I was like, if I don't like it, I'm not talking about it. I don't want negativity. I don't want distorted energy in my space. And I don't want it being expressed from my mouth. When you express something, when you focus on something, you energize it, you give it power. It's going to manifest. Whether you like it or whether you don't like it, it doesn't matter. So the corollary to, if I don't like it, I don't want to talk about it, is I focus on the things that I like and I talk about them a lot. I focus on them. I write about them. I record myself talking about them, and I listen to my recordings talking about it. I share the recordings, and then I talk about the things I like with other people. They talk about what they like. I talk about what I like. We talk about what we like together, and guess what happens? Guess what we manifest? Conflict? Drama? No, not at all. Now, I realize in some ways this is a fundamental shift in how we experience ourselves, but think about it this way. Imagine you have the opportunity to experience yourself any way that you want. There's no adversary, there's no enemy. How do you want to experience yourself? There's no limit, there's no constraints at all. Infinite possibilities. How do you want to experience yourself? Start from that. We don't do that. We start with, what problem am I dealing with right now, and tackle that. And then it's a push and a shove and a push and a shove and a back and a forth and an argument and a blame and a old energy, useless noise. How do I want to experience myself? How do I want, contemplate that, think, imagine yourself, experiencing yourself the way you want to experience yourself. And even if you don't know what that looks like, that doesn't matter. Remember, all you need is a template, an energetic structuring. I want to experience myself in peacefulness, in infinite possibility. I want to experience myself in community, having meaningful, uplifting interaction with my family, with my neighbors, with the other parents, within my community. I want to experience myself in a way that people are valued. People bring a diversity of interests and values and skills and areas of focus, and it all works together, and there's a synergy where things that are needed or required in one place are easily provided from someone else who has a surplus of goods, services, abilities, time, whatever. A beautiful harmony of sharing, giving and receiving in perfect balance. And then you start to think about examples of where this happens in your life, where things just came together really nicely. There was a really nice flow. There was a really nice synchronicity. I like when these kinds of things happen. It was really nice when that happened, where I was looking for something and someone had one. Last year we realized we needed a new bed for our youngest daughter. And we started looking. And we found one that looked like a good match. But we like to window shop because we like to focus and refine and contemplate and consider before we acquire something. So as we were window shopping and looking and contemplating and starting to really finalize in our decision as to what kind of bed we should get. It turns out The woman that runs the school had that exact bed surplus, had no use for it, was wanting to get rid of it. She said, "Here, take it. I don't need it anymore. I just got to find a place. I got to donate it or something. Take it if you want." It was the exact bed that we were looking for. I know you're gonna say, "Oh, coincidence." Yeah, but it's coincidence when it happens once in a while. It's synchronicity when it happens like that, time after time after time after time after time. Now, how do you do that? That's the recalibration. You start to take responsibility for everything in your reality. Realize that my vibration is entirely responsible for everything that I'm experiencing. So if I can recalibrate, if I can attune and align, adjust my vibration, and focus and express and dwell on what I like, what I appreciate, what I'm thankful for, what is fun, that's going to get integrated rapidly into my living experience. And that's how I'm going to experience myself. And all of that other baggage, all that distorted energy, the blame and the guilt and the judgment and all that stuff and the victim, it's going to disintegrate in your space. It's going to. Over time, it will. Not in a straight line. It's a little bit of ups and downs. But it just starts to peel off. And you start to realize, I'm not reacting like I used to. In the past, if somebody said something like that, I would have had this knee-jerk reaction. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just allowing. I'm not getting into these arguments and these dramas and these conflicts. I'm just allowing. And I'm just assuming love, assuming that that person really wants well-being for themselves. That's really what they want. They just don't really know how to do it. So I can just be an example. I can be an example of peacefulness. I can be an example of uplifting energy. I can be the example of navigating towards unity, finding commonality, expressing a collaborative energy as opposed to an energy of separation. Even compromise is really a lose-lose energy, right? Neither people get what they really want. Collaboration is we both get what we want and more. That's what collaboration is. That's synergy. We both get the things that we really wanted. And on top of that, this, and this other benefit arise. Who knew? That's synergy. So, happy to chat further with anybody who might want to. Take any questions. Be part of any discussion related to developing community and the evolution of our learning structures and developmental environments for our kids. So by all means, let's keep the conversation going and let's get things on track and let's start to imagine the celebration and the enjoyment, because this should be fun. It's exciting times, right? It's out with the old and it's in with the new. And we have the opportunity as creators to define in every respect how we want to experience ourselves and how we want our families to grow and thrive. It's opportunity. It's opportunity. Let's make the most of it.